Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever, made up an excuse to cancel weekend plans just so you could stay home and do absolutely nothing? Well, society loves to call that lazy. But today, we're going to use neuroscience to explore the totally fascinating reality behind why you crave a quiet, predictable life. You don't lack ambition. Your brain is actually engaging in a highly sophisticated emergency survival mode.
Look, from the literal moment you open your eyes, you're expected to perform. We're constantly told to hustle, to optimize every single hour, and to project this exhausting main character energy. And if your weekend isn't packed with aesthetic road trips or loud social gatherings, society subtly conditions you to feel this creeping sense of guilt, kind of like you're falling behind. But what if that guilt is just a complete lie? What if your unspoken craving for an unremarkable day is actually a vital biological necessity?
Section 1. The Invisible Rebellion.
Choosing to stay in your most comfortable clothes and just watch the rain isn't the sign of depression, antisocial behavior, or lost passion. Actually, it's an active, calculated pushback against our modern culture. We live in what neuroscientists call a toxic attention economy. Every notification on your phone, every billboard you pass, every crowded street, and every single social expectation is violently fighting to extract a fraction of your cognitive bandwidth. Over time, this relentless extraction of your emotional energy leaves your nervous system completely and utterly shattered. So when you finally turn the lock on your front door and sink into that heavy silence, something remarkable happens. The ability to find absolute undisturbed peace in a boring routine is a profound evolutionary advantage. It's a rare psychological trait that roughly 90% of modern humans have completely lost, mostly because they are absolutely terrified of their own thoughts. You have intuitively discovered the ultimate psychological luxury. Section 2. Your brain on overload. To truly wrap our heads around this intense craving for predictability, we really have to examine the biological reality inside your head. Think about how everyday activities are framed. Society views going out for coffee with an acquaintance as, a low-effort, relaxing activity. But for an introverted or highly sensitive nervous system, a crowded cafe is a massive, overwhelming data processing center. You're unconsciously tracking subtle facial expressions. You're filtering overlapping noisy conversations, adjusting to harsh lighting, and constantly masking to appear normal and polite. Your brain is functioning exactly like an overheated computer, computing thousands of microstimuli every single second.
And it doesn't stop at sensory input, right? Think about daily decision fatigue. Deciding what to wear, navigating heavy traffic, agonizing over how to reply to a passive-aggressive email. Every single one of these micro-choices consumes a measurable amount of glucose in your brain. By the time the afternoon rolls around, if you've been constantly exposed to unpredictable environments, you've rapidly depleted your cognitive reserves. You literally hit a wall of absolute cognitive fatigue.
This brilliantly illustrates the biological divide that forces you to seek isolation. Modern chaos pumps a heavy cocktail of dopamine and cortisol into your system, forcing your sympathetic nervous system to stay permanently switched on. Biologically, your brain thinks it's under a constant, invisible threat. Returning to a boring home is a strict biological imperative. By removing unexpected stimuli, you're basically signaling to your brain that it's safe to power down, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, stabilize your heart rate, and literally flush the stress hormone cortisol from your bloodstream. You are healing your exhausted brain.
Section 3. The Default Mode Network. Now, there is a huge misconception that a predictable life is a stagnant one. But when you lock the door and navigate away from loud environments, your brain drops its strict defense mode and builds a highly strategic launch pad for profound internal processing. The very second you engage in a mindless repetitive task, like folding laundry, staring blankly at a wall, or just listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the default mode network fiercely awakens. This network is the part of the brain that connects seemingly unrelated ideas, processes unresolved trauma, and reflects on who you are truly becoming. All those times society told you that you were just spacing out or wasting time? Well, your brain was actually doing its most critical high-level processing. It's biologically impossible to truly understand your own inner world if you're perpetually reacting to the outer world. Your external boredom acts as a protective shell. It allows your mind to be wildly colorful, chaotic, and brilliant on the inside. You aren't empty. You are simply shifting your energy inward.
Section 4. Healing versus hiding.
Okay, we have to stop romanticizing the quiet life for just a moment here and confront a really uncomfortable truth. Solitude is incredibly potent medicine for the modern mind, But just like any powerful medicine, an overdose will eventually turn it into a poison. You must bravely ask yourself in the silence of your room, are you protecting your peace or are you protecting your pain? Has your predictable, boring routine actually recharged your energy, or has it quietly morphed into an elaborate, self-made prison masking severe agoraphobia, social anxiety, or unresolved trauma?
The absolute key is understanding the stark difference between these two states. Spending 3 days completely isolated is only healthy if the underlying texture of that isolation is a profound sense of relief, clarity, and grounding. If you feel a lingering, heavy apathy, you've fallen into emotional numbness. Numbness is not peace, it's a psychological anesthetic. It's simply hitting the mute button on your life because the volume of your anxiety or hidden grief has just become way too loud to endure.
To ensure your quiet life remains a source of power rather than a symptom of avoidance, you must master the psychological art of intentional grounding. If you're just endlessly scrolling through short-form content, paralyzing your brain with cheap digital dopamine to make the hours pass, that's escapism, not rest. True grounding requires fierce presence. Put the phone away, tend to your plants, cook a meal from scratch and pay attention to the smell of the spices, read a physical book, allow yourself to physically anchor back into your body.
Section 5. The Science of Silence. When you master this intentional grounding, it completely transforms how you relate to society, and your craving for a quiet life becomes an incredibly ruthless and highly efficient psychological filter. Evolutionary psychology gives us Dunbar's number, which is a hard biological limit on our social connections. Social media aggressively violates this limit, demanding you maintain hundreds of shallow connections. But when you choose a quiet life, you completely disrupt this toxic social game. By refusing forced networking and loud events, you naturally starve out energy vampires who only want you for temporary emotional validation, and you're left with a heavily guarded, premium microcircle of relationships.
Because of this, the definition of a quality relationship changes entirely. The ultimate test of intimacy isn't how well you can hold a charismatic conversation at a crowded, noisy dinner party. It's actually the incredibly rare ability for two nervous systems to naturally co-regulate in a shared room without feeling that suffocating, anxious pressure to fill the empty air with words. You feel profoundly seen because you're allowed to simply exist entirely unmasked.
This absolute requirement for quiet predictability extends to your highest levels of focus too. Flow state, peak cognitive performance, cannot occur in a state of constant distraction. You just cannot enter flow while reacting to a noisy, unpredictable environment. Every complex problem ever solved and every beautiful piece of art ever created required a foundation of extreme, undisturbed boredom. Beneath the surface of your profound stillness, your mind is silently building empires.
Section 6. The Courage to be a Nobody. We live in a society absolutely terrified of obscurity, constantly demanding you chase titles to prove you matter. But as you step back into the rhythm of your boring life, you realize a massively liberating truth. The ultimate luxury in this hyper-connected era is not fame or constant motion. It's the profound, almost spiritual joy of being completely unobserved. When no one knows where you are or what you're doing, you are entirely free from the exhausting performance of modern identity.
Sitting on your couch and watching the evening light slowly fade across your living room floor is absolutely not a failure of ambition. You do not have to earn your right to exist through constant productivity. Your quiet life is a masterpiece of intentional peace. You are already completely, undeniably enough.
So embrace your gloriously ordinary, predictably boring days as the profound evolutionary gifts they truly are. The next step is entirely up to you. Are you finally ready to stop apologizing for the silence you so deeply crave? Turn this explainer off, leave your phone in another room, and sink deeply into a beautifully boring evening. Because haven't you finally earned your rest?